Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Cape Breton Regional Municipality Council meeting for Tuesday, March 9th, 2021. I now call the meeting to order. First, we're going to begin tonight with roll call. Present.
Present.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Here.
Present.
Here.
Here.
Here. Here.
Here.
Thank you, councillors. Just for the viewing audience, we do have a little bit of background music. We are here tonight at Centre 200 for our meeting, so lots happening all at the same time in case you're hearing that noise. Next, we are going to proceed to O Canada. It wasn't on the agenda because we've been used to Zoom meetings, so if we all take a moment and stand, if you are able, for the non-singing of O Canada. I just want to make note that that beautiful version of O Canada is actually a daughter of one of our staff members, so we're very lucky that Cassidy was able to record that with the help of some local producers, so that is a very special rendition for sure for our council. Before we move on to the approval of the minutes, I do want to ask our Deputy Mayor, Erlene McMullen, just to present a little bit of good news to you all.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have the privilege, and to call on my Vanna here beside me, Councillor Gordon MacDonald, who's holding the plaque. I have the privilege to read a letter addressed to our Mayor from the Honourable Arthur Liblong, our Lieutenant Governor, and it's in regards to a community spirit plaque that has been sent to the CBRM. So if you'll let me just fill you in here. So again, it is addressed to Her Worship, Mayor Amanda McDougall in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. Your Worship, I'm delighted to send the enclosed community spirit plaque to the Cape Breton Regional Municipality. As we are all aware, during 2020, this province experienced great turmoil when we were all impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic and the series of tragic events that soon followed. As a small province with a tight-knit population, the impact of these events was deeply felt across our region. During this period, I had an opportunity to call numerous municipal and Indigenous leaders to speak about how their residents were coping during this difficult time. I was greatly impressed to learn how resilient and positive Nova Scotians were in adapting to these significant challenges. The wonderful residents of our province demonstrated their amazing spirit and resourcefulness as they found innovative ways to continue their volunteerism and help those who are less fortunate. In recognition of the tremendous spirit and resilience, I announced the creation of the plaque at the Celebrating Community Spirit and Volunteer ceremony on the 28th of September 2020. It is hoped that you will display this plaque in your community. My staff have prepared the enclosed instructions for the installation. While we are not yet able to travel to your community to personally present the plaque, my wife Patsy and I hope there will be an opportunity to visit the Cape Breton Regional Municipality in the near future. Yours sincerely, the Honorable Arthur Liblong, Lieutenant Governor.
So thoughtful of our Lieutenant Governor. We will surely have that displayed and let our council and the public know where they can view this very lovely community spirit plaque. So we will now move to item 1 on our agenda. That would be the approval of minutes as previously distributed for council from February 23rd, 2021.
So moved, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Lauren Green, seconded by Councillor Darren Brookschwager. Any discussion on the motion?
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay.
Nay. Oh, sorry.
Oh. We're transitioning from Zoom again, so it's tricky stuff here. Seeing none, motion to approve the minutes is carried. Next, item 2, approval of the agenda, including the addendum.
I'll move.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Erlene McMullen,
Second.
seconded by, you have to forgive me, I don't have my glasses on, Councillor Steve Parsons.
Question, Madam Mayor?
Question's been called?
No, I
You do have a question, sorry.
Just on the addendum, item number, I believe it's number 5, I believe, or 7.1, yeah, 7.1A, the Central Library study. I just received this information today on the 11th hour. I'm not prepared to either vote on a motion in terms of that particular item, so I would like to move that we move that to a further meeting, and I would so move that as a motion.
Second.
Okay, I'm so sorry, who seconded that? Oh, seconded by Councillor James Edwards. Any discussion on this motion? Councillor McDonald.
Thanks very much, Madam Mayor. I would ask Council's indulgence to allow this motion to stay on the agenda. I did, late this afternoon, send an email out to our clerk in regards to why I felt it was important. The current developers had an 18-month period to move forward with the project. As I disclosed in that email, we were in an election year and COVID. The report was
Madam
like
Mayor, with all due respect to the speaker, just on a point of order, the motion is simply to defer the item to a future meeting.
Okay.
We're not debating whether what the issue is. It's just to move it to a further meeting.
I might suggest to council, if it is the wishes of council, we can also take this item and move it into its own special meeting. If council requires more time to review documents and whatever you need will provide you, is that an option?
Fine with me.
So would we want to take back those motions and then move to defer this item to a special meeting?
Which would be when?
I suppose, before the end of the month for sure, we'd like to have this discussed before we get into budget. We can take some time, make sure, I can converse with Councillor Lauren Green on the various information pieces that you would require, I guess. Studies, other work that's been done over the years. Would that be agreeable?
That's fine with me, Madam Mayor. Just like I say, I just want it deferred because I'm not comfortable in supporting this evening without, like I say, I get information on the 11th hour, and I'm just not comfortable supporting anything in regards to the library this evening. And I just think we should move it for further discussion at a future date.
Sure.
And I second that, Madam Mayor.
Is there any further discussion? Deputy Mayor Erlene McMullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to note, I had it noted that once we did reach that item on the agenda, that I too was going to make a motion to defer until we could get more information. I do request, though, that we do it as soon as possible because time is an issue, and I think we should have a good amount of time set aside because it will be a long discussion. And I do request that Any information that we've already had out there, any previous studies, any ground moves so far, is provided to all of council, seeing as the good majority are relatively new to the background, so that everyone has the opportunity to do their homework prior, so the discussion and the meeting can start in a better spot, as opposed to trying to bring everyone up, up to date, because like I said, there has been a lot of previous discussion. But if we can do this very quickly, that would be great.
Councillor Steve Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I also like to say, when we do VIT, understand this from an historical standpoint. A lot of us around the table, we're not privy to certain information by individuals involved, engaged. So if we are going to have a meeting, my suggestion would be to invite all parties, including anybody that's engaged with the project, including Senator Dan Christmas, from an Indigenous standpoint, and even the developers themselves. We haven't even heard from Mr. Woodward yet in terms of what work has been done. Sure, we can read it, but there may be questions that we want to ask the proponent as far as the complete development. So I would suggest any and all information from those individuals engaged be invited as well. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the motion to defer this item to another date? And I'll speak to this after we're done.
Question.
You have to forgive me. Question's been called. All those in favor of deferring this item to a later date, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay.
Nay?
Oh, okay, we're going to go around and just make sure that we can record the votes. Councillor Gordon MacDonald.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Erlene McMullen.
Aye.
Councillor Cyril MacDonald.
Aye.
Councillor Steve Gillespie.
Aye.
Councillor Eldon MacDonald.
Nay?
Councillor Glenn Perouche.
Nay.
Councillor Steve Parsons.
Aye.
Councillor James Edwards.
Aye.
Councillor Kenny Tracy.
Aye.
Councillor Darren Brookschweiger.
Aye.
Councillor Darren O'Quinn.
Nay.
Councillor Lauren Green.
Aye.
Motion is carried to defer to a later date. Very quickly, I just spoke with the clerk. We will work to have that meeting within the next 2 weeks. In the meantime, perhaps what we can do is a review of studies, work, motions, what have you, put together a bit of a historical package, I guess, for council, to do a bit of homework before we go to this meeting, so we can all be prepared to have the discussions around how this project moves forward. Is that fine with council? If anybody does have anything specific they want to ensure that is in that package, feel free to reach out to myself or the clerk.
Mayor,
Okay.
Mayor McDougall, if I may.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Steve Gillespie?
Although Councillor Steve Parsons had indicated that the players should be at the table, I'm wondering if it might be a good idea to have the library itself at the table as well.
Most certainly, most
Thank you.
certainly. That I would consider the library board and staff there to be absolute stakeholders in this.
Good, thank you.
So we have had a motion to defer one of the items. We still require an approval of the agenda.
Yeah, you have a motion for that. I just, sorry, Madam Mayor, I interrupted with
That's okay.
removing that. I think Erlene already moved to accept the agenda.
I did.
Okay, great. And do we have a seconder to approve the agenda?
Second.
Seconded by, this is a large space, so forgive me if it takes me a second to identify who is moving and seconding. Seconded by Councillor Kenny Tracy. Looking for the question.
Question.
Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion has been carried to approve the agenda. We're now into section 3 of our agenda, proclamations. I do want to mention to council members, if you so choose, you are more than welcome to simply read the entirety of your proclamation or just the operative clause, whatever you prefer. The first proclamation we have, item 3.1, is Superhero Day, and I will call upon Councillor Cyril MacDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Be it therefore resolved that Mayor Amanda M. McDougall and Council proclaim March 24th, 2021 as Superhero Day in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality in recognition of Caleb's amazing legacy and the importance of supporting Caleb's courage in raising public awareness of childhood cancer at the regional level. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Cyril MacDonald, seconded by Councillor Steve Gillespie. Discussion on the proclamation?
If I may, thank you, Madam Mayor. Whereas Cape Breton's little superhero Caleb MacArthur bravely battled cancer neuroblastoma at the age of 3 years old and tragically passed away on March 24th, 2015. And whereas on this day, Caleb's family, friends, and community come together to commemorate Caleb, his life, his legacy, and his fight, and to raise awareness for all children battling cancer and other critical illnesses. And whereas, in loving memory of their son, Caleb's parents, Mike MacArthur and Nicole Forgeron, created Caleb's Courage, an endowment fund with a mandate to help little superheroes fighting big battles as a way to honor Caleb and to support other children like him. And whereas Caleb's Courage provides financial assistance for Cape Breton families of children with critical illnesses to aid with associated medical and travel costs, and funds specialized equipment, services, and programs for those children while they are in hospital and at home. And whereas childhood cancer is not rare. In fact, the reality is 1 in less than 300 children will be diagnosed with some form of childhood cancer. Children in Cape Breton are diagnosed with cancer every year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question's been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Next, we have item 3.2, World Water Day. I will call upon Councillor Steve Gillespie, please.
Thank you, Mayor McDougall, and if it pleases Council, I will read the entire proclamation. It's only a few short lines. Proclamation World Water Day. Whereas the United Nations has declared Monday, March 22nd, 2021 as World Water Day, themed 2021 Value in Water. And whereas, beyond the issues of pricing, this topic includes the environmental, social, and cultural value people place on water. People around the world are encouraged to celebrate by remembering our need for clean water to support the most basic of human needs. Therefore, be it resolved that Mayor Amanda M. McDougall and CBRM Council proclaim Monday, March 22nd, 2021 as World Water Day in the Cape Breton Regional Municipality, and residents are encouraged to practice responsible and sustainable use of water. I so move.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Steve Gillespie, seconded by Councillor Cyril McDonald. Any further discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Gillespie. Next, we have item 3.3, International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. And I call upon Councillor Lauren Green, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll read the entirety, but I'll read the be it therefore resolved first and move that.
Sure.
Be it therefore resolved that the CBRM Council proclaims Sunday, March 22nd, 2021 as International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination in Cape Breton Regional Municipality, and I so move.
Second.
Okay, moved by Councillor Lauren Green, seconded by Councillor James Edwards. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Green.
Whereas in 1966, the United Nations declared March 21st as International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. Today, we commemorate the 69 anti-apartheid protesters killed and those wounded by the police in Sharpeville, South Africa in 1960 during a peaceful protest against the system that segregated the black population. And whereas racial discrimination continues to exist within our community, and it is a universal problem that divides communities, destroys lives, and undermines the struggles for equity and equality, exclusivity, social justice, racial discrimination threatens human rights, equal access to jobs, health care, housing, education, and social and other essential community service. Individual and institutionalized racism continues to oppress and exclude people while creating barriers to opportunities, equal participation, and democracy. Today, we must renew our commitment to end racial discrimination and acknowledge the struggles and challenges First Nation people and racial minorities face during racial discrimination and prejudice. To quote James Baldwin, "Not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced."
Very powerful quote. So that was moved by Councillor Lauren Green, seconded by Councillor James Edwards, I think it was. Correct. Any further discussion?
Question?
Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. I am going to actually remove myself from the chair and switch with the deputy as I read the next proclamation.
Madam Mayor, just on a point before the deputy walks up to the table, you're just reading a proclamation. I don't see the need for removing yourself. I don't know how council feels about that, but you're just moving a proclamation.
Just trying to
Yeah.
follow the rules, eh? No, I appreciate that, Councillor. Thank you so kindly. So I will read a proclamation that has become very close to my heart, and the proclamation is for World Down Syndrome Day. I'll read the entirety, please. March 21st is World Down Syndrome Day. This is a day to raise awareness of Down syndrome and celebrate that every person is truly unique and different. And whereas World Down Syndrome Day is recognized throughout Canada as a day to raise awareness of and celebrate the many accomplishments, contributions, and talents people with Down syndrome bring to their communities. And whereas Down Syndrome Day is a time for us to reflect on how we can better ensure individuals in our community with Down syndrome live complete, fulfilling lives and appreciate the strengths and abilities of those with Down syndrome. And whereas people with Down syndrome make significant contributions to the fabric of our communities, they participate in the workplace, run their own businesses, create art and music, excel in sports and recreation, and pursue studies in schools, our community college and university within the CBRM. Be it therefore resolved, I, Amanda M. McDougall, Mayor of the CBRM, and Council proclaim March 21st, 2021 as World Down Syndrome Day in the CBRM and encourage all residents of the CBRM and Government of Nova Scotia to see the ability and leave no one behind, and I so move.
Second.
Seconded by Deputy Mayor Erlene McMullen. Is there any discussion?
Question?
If I would just actually like to add one little piece. I know in the municipality here, we are going to have a special celebration for World Down Syndrome Day in partnership with the Down Syndrome Society. Lynn Levette so wonderfully reached out to me after my son Emmett was born, who has Down syndrome, and we have become incredibly wonderful, close friends. And I gotta say, this Down Syndrome Society we have in Cape Breton is truly filled with remarkable people. But what we're going to do is super fun. So we're going to have some of the Down Syndrome Society crew come in and have mayor for a day, councillor for a day, CAO for a day, you name it, we are going to do it. It's going to be an incredible partnership, and we sure will be doing this safely. We know that people who do have Down syndrome are at an incredibly high risk should they come in contact with COVID. So we will be doing things as safely as possible and also as meaningfully as possible. And I'm so eager and grateful to all of our staff and council who did not hesitate to jump on board and start with the organization of this. So I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. So the motion has been moved and seconded. I believe question was called before I started talking again. So we'll just go to voting. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Now we are going to move to item 4 on the agenda, our presentations. Our first presentation we have here, 4.1, is Caregivers Nova Scotia. So I am going to ask Ms. Maggie Roach-Ganaway to please come forward and offer your wonderful presentation.
Sorry, it takes me a little longer to get around nowadays, but it's getting better. So thank you. I want to thank you for allowing me to come tonight to tell you a little bit about Caregivers Nova Scotia. My name is Maggie Roach-Ganaway, and I'm the Caregiver Support Coordinator for the Cape Breton region. I think this presentation is appropriate with all the proclamations that were put forward today, so I hope you enjoy it. So we are a nonprofit organization. We're provincial nonprofit, and we're dedicated to providing free programs and services to unpaid caregivers. We are funded through the Nova Scotia Department of Health and Wellness, the continuing care branch, and we are in all areas of the province. And as I said, I cover all of Cape Breton. So we think it's important to distinguish what a caregiver is, and it is an essential unpaid caregiver who cares for someone who may have a physical or mental condition, may be chronically ill, frail, or elderly, and they can be in their own home or in a care facility as well. A caregiver can be a spouse, an adult child, in-laws, parents, siblings, friends, or family of choice. We also think it's important to distinguish a care provider as a person who gets paid for their time, such as an RN, LPN, doctors, OTs, and stuff. So what do we know about the unpaid caregiver? Well, 28% of Canadians provide unpaid care, and in Nova Scotia alone, it's 1 in 3. A recent study showed that about 98% of people receiving home care would not be able to do so stay safely in their own home without a family or friend caregiver as well. And we also know that the unpaid caregivers save the Canadian healthcare system about $66 billion a year. What we know about the mental health effects of caregivers, well, 60% of parent caring, 60% of those caring for a parent and 74% of spousal caregivers are more likely to report signs of psychological distress than other caregivers. And 34% of spousal caregivers report feeling depressed as a result of their caregiving duties. Can I take this off? I'm getting overheated. 23% of parents report mental health conditions as the most common region for caring for a sick child. Caregivers tell us that their role is rewarding to them and they're more than happy to do it, but they often lack confidence, feel unsupported, and intimidated by some of the challenges that lie ahead of them. So we want, they ask us to provide certain skills, knowledge, and support to help them provide a good environment, a good and safe environment, and to manage the physical and psychological effects of caregiving. In Canada, there are a number of caregiver organizations. Now, we were the first, like I said, in 1998, and then British Columbia, Alberta, and just recently Ontario have followed suit. We also have federal supports for caregivers with Canada Revenue Agency and Employment Insurance, and as well, Veterans Affairs have some programs that are important to caregivers as well. In Nova Scotia, there's a number of organizations that help caregivers as well. And most importantly, I want to point out the Nova Scotia Department of Health and Wellness, who provide the caregiver benefit of $400 a month for eligible caregivers, and the supportive care program, which just since COVID has recently been up to $1,000 a month instead of the $500. And these are both excellent programs for caregivers because financial is sometimes a problem for some people, so to have these in place, we are the only province in Canada to have these benefits. So at Caregivers Nova Scotia, our 4 pillars are to have, to provide information, healthcare navigation, and resources. Health navigation is a big part of what I do. People will call and they just don't know where to turn. So we kind of help them navigate as to where it is important that they look for help. Educational workshops, we do provide different workshops, and I did provide a sheet with the 4 workshops, but I'll go over a little bit of it as we go along anyway. Peer support is our support groups. We have support groups all across the province. I have 5 within Cape Breton. Again, because of COVID, we have the ability to do it virtually if we can't meet in person. And advocacy is a big part of what we do as well. So our programs and services consist of telephone and email support, which most times people call us at a time of panic and crisis because they just don't know where to turn. And we do have the ability to have those long conversations and focus on their needs. Because all of our care coordinators are caregivers themselves, we are empathetic to what they're going through. So although we do not provide psychological counseling or advice, medical, legal, or financial, we do kind of lead them to where they can get that advice. We support caregivers who lack transportation and don't have access to respite or are uncomfortable in groups, so we can do that via phone or internet. Our peer support groups are a safe and confidential place where caregivers can come together and talk with each other. They pick up some practical tips, some education, and coping skills. It's a great place for them to come together with other caregivers. It alleviates the isolation they feel because they feel that they're the only one going through this. And occasionally we will bring in guest speakers for, if the topic comes up that everybody's interested in, we will bring in a guest speaker. Our health navigation is a big part of what we do. Again, like I said, a lot of people just don't know what's out there for them. So if they call us, we kind of tell them about the federal and provincial programs and benefits. Like I said, the caregiver benefit and the supportive care benefits. And caregiver or continuing care have other benefits as well, but you know, it's best to call us to talk more about them at the time. We tell them about the community resources that are available and about other programs like the adult day programs. And there's videos demonstrating caregiving tasks so they can feel more comfortable in their role. Increased knowledge and confidence can reduce stress and provide better outcomes for everyone. Our first workshop we provide, and I know I'm going through this quick, but I know we only got a short time, is the Caregiver Stress Management, which is our #1 workshop. Usually all our workshops are about 2 hours long. But this is important to caregivers because it gives them a place to relieve some of the stress they're feeling. So we talk about the warning signs, the caregiver burnout, priorities and taking action, and SMART goal settings as well. Our safe medicines for seniors and caregivers it's just that. We do this in conjunction with community pharmacists, and we talk about the safe use issues and practices and give them some resources along the way. That book is one of the resources we provide them. The community pharmacists enjoy doing this with us because it gets them out into the community to meet their people in the community themselves, so it's a win-win for everyone. Brushing Up on Mouth Care was first developed by DAL faculty, and it was first developed for care providers, but we took it and we tailored it to caregivers. We talk about the importance of oral health, brushing techniques, products, and conditions for dementia and palliative care as well. And last but not least, our advanced care planning for caregivers. So we discussed why advanced care planning is so important. We help them, give them the tools to start the conversation of advanced care planning, and we give them the tools to take away to develop their own care plan for themselves as well as their care recipient. Some of the resources we provide people is, okay, the Are You an Unpaid Caregiver? This is one we developed only because a lot of people don't consider themselves a caregiver. So we've put this checklist together so that they can recognize that they are. So it reduces barriers for them accessing support as well. Our Where to Begin guide is a 6-page planning guide, and it's a checklist. What I really like about this, it is a checklist, and for people just starting out, it allows them to get a feeling of who does what, the care recipient, the caregiver, or healthcare provider, and that might be a good framework as to what they're going to be seeking in the future. It also gives them a little check-in for themselves as well as, and see how they're doing. Some of our resources as well are translated into French for our French-speaking people. Our Caregiver Handbook is a 94-page resource with tools and information. It includes a lot of charts and lists and schedules. We have a shorter section on our website as well, so that in case they don't want to go through the whole book, they can just go to our website and click on the areas that are important to them. And as well, there's blank templates and charts on our website that they can just print out, so that they can reuse them over and over again. So our website, which is probably our best resource, aside from our staff, of course. If you go to our website, this is the page you're going to see. And each circle will take you to the specific spot. So if you're looking for a peer support group, you can just click on that, or handbook. Two of the areas we just developed were the transitions in adult care and the palliative end-of-life care as well. They're two of our newer sections. You'll see there is a search function at the top of the page as well. You don't see it here, but there is if you go to our website. And there's a subscribe button as well, as all of our other information. I couldn't possibly tell you all that's in our website, but we're told that it's very easy to navigate, and I encourage you to in your free time, to go and have a look through the website, because it has an abundance of information. The advocacy part of our pillar is where we want to be the voice of caregivers. Again, we do this by sitting on boards and committees and making sure that what caregivers tell us is heard. And that's one of the reasons, again, why I'm here tonight, to make sure caregivers' voices are heard. And although we are a provincial organization, many of the people in CBRM probably aren't aware of us, and that's why I wanted to bring it to the forefront tonight. So how can you support us? Well, if you have people that you know that may need some support in the community, by all means, refer them. There is a fillable referral form on our website that either you can refer with their permission, or they can self-refer. You can follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and we even have a YouTube channel. Sign up for our newsletter and events notification. Again, it's on the bottom of the first page there. We only do two newsletters a year, so it's not like you're going to get inundated with it. And May is Caregivers Awareness Month, and each May, for the whole month of May, we do programs for caregivers. So, you know, if you want to receive notification of those, by all means, sign up. Visit our website, like I said, and check out all the great information there. I did give everyone a rack card with my contact information on it, and there is a 1-800 number for the main office, but the 371 number is my local number here. And if you call that number, I will answer the phone. Unless I'm on the other line. But it's not like you got to go through a multitude of pushing buttons and stuff. I will leave some extra rack cards for anyone who wants to have them in their office in case someone does come and looking for support. And by all means, like I said, you know, call, fill out the referral, and like us on Facebook, so, like I said, I know I went quick, but if there's any questions, by all means.
Thank you, Maggie. Super. Can everybody hear me? Very, very valuable information. I know council members frequently get calls looking for information like this, so very grateful just from the get-go. Deputy Mayor Erlene McMullen, you had requested to speak.
I did. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just, thank you for the presentation, and this information comes, the timing is pretty good for me, actually. I've had a few calls over the last week or two, which brings me to my question. I assume with COVID, your office has been much busier, or would you say it's the same?
Yes and no. We work from our offices anyway most times, and if people call, like I said, they call us first or email us. Our support groups were put on hold for a while, and that was more the in-person thing, and so our workshops have been as well. Because COVID kind of shut down everything, yes, people are more panicky. A lot of people who had all these resources, like the respite, the day programs and everything, and when they shut down, now what do I do, right? So we have been doing a lot more one-on-one, yes, contact that way, for sure.
I think the work you're doing is fantastic, and I actually will be passing along the majority of my information to a couple people now, so I'm sure they'll be reaching out. And I'm happy to hear that COVID hasn't stopped your work or the dedication of the group. So I'm noticing, COVID and apparently your injury, and you're still going through. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Steve Gillespie.
Thank you, Maggie, for your presentation again. And similar to Deputy Mayor Erlene McMullen, I've had some people reach out to me over the last couple of months, and I didn't know where to send them. So I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm going to ask you a question, and I feel terrible for having to ask this, but how long have you been around?
Well, our organization has been around since 1998.
Okay.
Actually. It started, they tell a story about a few women sitting around a kitchen table discussing how caregivers can be better supported. And the then Premier decided to put his money where his mouth was and fund the organization. Okay. And it's grown, tenfold over the years. We weren't in all areas of the province, but now we are. So, and it is an important, it's so important because, again, we have the luxury of being able to talk with them for long periods and find out exactly what they need, right? And send them to the right spot. And many people, like I said, they don't know we're out there. Yeah. Now, I've only been doing it for 7 years here in Cape Breton. I retired after 25 years in long-term care. And I was on the other side at that time. I was a care provider. So, and I didn't think about the caregiver at that time because I was too worried about the care recipient, right? But it's really opened my eyes to what caregiving is all about in the community.
Well, it certainly has. It's opened my eyes as well. You do fantastic work, and I'm going to share this information as well. And appreciate not only thank you for coming, but I'd like to also point out to the rest of council and to whoever's setting the agenda, this type of information is what we need. We need to have these types of presentations. I mean, this is eye-opening for me. So to the agenda setting committee, thank you. And Maggie, thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Here, ma'am.
Oh, sorry, it's a very large room. My apologies, Councillor Brooks-Schweiger.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Maggie, for being here. Steve Gillespie asked a question about how long you've been here, since 97, you said. And I'm just wondering about how long has it been since the government actually started to offer some financial assistance for families?
Now, that's more than I can tell you. I know that it's been in place. Those two programs I talked about have been in place ever since I've been there. But and I know before that too. But I can't exactly tell you the exact time when they decided to start.
Because that's one of the big ones I had, Maggie, over many years that I've been here. Family members who were struggling, couldn't get any assistance financially. And at the same time, they try to work and look after the caregiver, look after the family member. And it became really too much for a lot of these families.
Absolutely.
And when you look at $66 billion in savings,
exactly.
If some of these people would have to be into a home for special care, or I should say, adult care or manor type setting, that's an amazing amount of money. And I really believe that these people that are doing that at home need more help. I really do believe that. It's a terrible burden. And like you said, sometimes the wear and tear on that family member. I had many of these conversations where I could feel the stress in the conversation of the caregiver who was doing their best to look after mom or dad type thing, right? And sometimes a sister or brother was in Ontario, and the conversation, oh, you can't put mom in the home, right? And I ended up involved in a few of those conversations and to try to explain, you really don't know what your sister is going through here at home. And, actually to kind of care. And your mother's getting to a point where they actually need more care than just what can be offered by one family member. So this is great information. I really, I think the province are opening their eyes to this because they are starting to offer some financial help. Can you explain a little bit more about the 400 and the 500, Maggie?
Yep.
You talk about caregiver benefit at 400.
Yep.
And then the supportive care program at 500.
And actually, it's 1,000 now.
So they changed that to 1,000,
Yeah.
all right? So this one's a couple of years old, okay?
Yeah.
And actually, the breakdown of the two of them is just basically set up like that. Can you explain that a little more, please?
Okay, yeah. The $500 caregiver benefit is for lower income people, okay? So it is income dependent.
Right.
And it goes by the income of the care recipient, okay? And there are certain criteria they have to be eligible for. So the care coordinator will come out and do an assessment. They will decide whether or not they're eligible for that during that assessment. It's a $400 stipend to the caregiver, as long as the eligibility requirements are met. And it is something that they do have to claim it on the income tax, but it comes off in another section as well. And it's for them to do whatever they want with it. That $400 is theirs to do what they want. Okay. Sometimes with lower income people, what the family really don't need that $400 for themselves, so they can use it back with the care recipient as well. It's up to them. They can do whatever they want with it. Now, the supportive care program is more for people with cognitive deficits, and they've just changed the eligibility as well with that one to include acquired brain injury, which is something that wasn't there before. And since COVID, when COVID happened, a lot of people didn't want home care coming into their home, but if they had somebody with cognitive issues and they knew somebody who could provide the care for them, this supportive care, that's what they can pay a private person to come into the home. Now, the only difference with this money, and again, since COVID, they put it up to 1,000. They were going to stop it, but then they found out actually people need it, so they kept it at 1,000. And the only difference with this one is if you don't use it, you have to send it back. So they put the $1,000 in your month or in your bank at the beginning of the month. You can pay the private caregivers, and you work it out with them how much you pay them, all the requirements that you're looking for. But like I said, the only thing is if you don't use it, you have to send it back. It's a quarterly accounting where you only have to account for it every 3 months.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Bruckschweiger. Councillor Kenny Tracy.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Maggie, for being here. Great presentation. Just one quick question. When you talk about the $400 a month to low-income families, what exactly is the dollar figure there, like in terms of?
I believe it's for single, it's $22,125, and this is off the top of my head. So But for married couple, it's 37, two something maybe, or 100. I can't exactly remember the last.
That's good
It's
numbers.
around 37,000 for a
Absolutely.
married couple.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Counselor. Any further questions? I have something very quick, just in terms of logistics. This book, I looked through very quickly, the Caregivers Handbook that you shared with us. Is this on the website in
It
its
is.
entirety? So perhaps what we can do as a municipality is share this information with the public as well. We'll definitely, throw some likes out there on social media, make sure we share this around, because just taking a glance through, what an incredible resource to have, not solely about in-home care, but holy cow, so many different things. Dial a ride, all kinds of things. Canadian Cancer Society. This book seems invaluable, quite frankly. So thank you for sharing
Absolutely.
that with all of us.
And that is one thing unique about Caregivers Nova Scotia as well, and I don't know if I said this, but we are open to all caregivers, right? It doesn't matter what their ailment is or the age of the caregiver or care recipient. We're open to everyone. There are other organizations that are disease-specific or, but we are open to everyone. Here to support everyone.
It's fantastic. Thank you so kindly. I don't think there are any other questions, but please accept our gratitude. This has been, like Councillor Gillespie said, quite eye-opening, and really, we appreciate this education.
Well, I appreciate you having me here tonight. Thank you.
Take good care.
Thanks.
So we will now move to our next presentation, item 4.2 on our agenda, Cape Breton Island Housing Authority, and I'm going to welcome Mr. Sean Luker, who is the Director of the Cape Breton Housing Authority, up to provide a presentation to us this evening.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Like the Mayor said, my name is Sean Luker. I'm the Director with Cape Breton Island Housing Authority for the last 2.5 years. I asked to speak with Council tonight to present who we are as an organization and to also let you know that we're looking for board members appointed from CBRM. So who we are as an organization, so for the last well over 40 years, we've been housing low-income families, seniors, and individuals across the province. For our authority here, we're the entire island. And within that island, we have 3,000, hold on, I gotta get my stat sheet. So right now we have 3,235 units under our public housing portfolio. Seniors is 2,039 of that. And for families, it's 1,196. CBRM is around 75% of that portfolio. And we have a board that meets once a month, 10 times a year. And the board in their authority is the decider of all tenant-related matters. That includes anyone applying to get into public housing, any social issues that are causing a concern that need discussion, and if we are going through any eviction processes, any community relations concerns, they're reviewed in front of the board for any deciding factors that does impact the lives of our clients. Our organization is broken into 2 focus points. We focus on maintenance of the property, so our clients are being served in a safe location. That's one of our biggest mandates, is to ensure that we're housing in a safe location that they can have their livelihoods continue on. The second part is client service. That's when we come into our administrative tasks of interacting with our clients, taking in their needs and responding appropriately to act upon those requests. I have 150 staff that serve all of our clients through the authority right now, and they have the passion of no one I've ever seen in any organization I've ever worked with. And I thought it was fair to present to you what we do, and just to ask that we have appointment from CBRM for our board memberships, because right now we have 6 members on our board, and CBRM has a slot for 3 board members if you wish to appoint that many. I attached the criteria, it's in the agenda, the selection for the ABC board profiles. So if you have any questions related to what the criteria for a board member would be, it is all within that documentation there. I met with the mayor, was it 2 weeks ago? To give the same request, so we thought it'd be best to present to council on this as well. So my request is simply just to have appointees from CBRM on our board. The advantage of that is you'd have someone to coordinate with to ensure that we're doing good work for our clients, because as I said, you guys have a 75% client base that are living with us, and your community stake, I mean, we're funded by the Nova Scotia government, but your stake in our housing is 12% of that. So it's important that we have I think it's important that we have some board membership that is speaking on behalf of CBRM and the clients within CBRM.
Thank you, Sean. And just for clarity, if I might,
Yeah.
the board members being requested are not those coming from our council members. So it would be definitely a conflict of interest. So it is
if
for
you
us
want,
to appoint citizen representatives, sorry.
yeah, so if you want, I'll just go through the criteria
Yeah,
real quick here. So so people that would be ineligible would be anyone elected holding a federal, provincial, or municipal office, the spouse of an elected official, employees of the housing authority could not be appointed, employees of the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, or now it's changed to Infrastructure and Housing, employees of Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, or employees of municipalities that fall within the housing authority's jurisdiction, and individuals who own or are directors of companies that have entered into a rent supplement agreement with the minister or respective housing authority, or employees or owners of businesses that deal with the housing authority. So that's the only criteria of what the board member couldn't be. So anything else above and beyond that would fit the criteria of a board member.
If I might ask our clerk, Madam Clerk, just perhaps to offer our council members an idea of how we would go about getting the potential citizen appointees should council approve a motion saying that we agree to this.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, so the process would be similar to other calls for expressions of interest that we have issued in the past for citizens to put forward their names to serve as volunteers on the board. This one's a little bit different. The submissions would be received by our office, and then it would go to the nominating committee, and the nominating committee would make referral to council. Council would make recommendations to the minister responsible, which is now Infrastructure and Housing. So council doesn't actually appoint the citizens. It's a recommendation to the Minister of Housing Infrastructure.
Are there any questions from council on this? Councillor Perouche.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the presentation, Sean. I just have a quick question. When you say client services and needs, you guys are responsible for snow removal from around
Yes.
the duplexes, and I'll use my district as an example. I have a duplex there, and by no fault of your own, as we've only had 2 snowstorms, but you know how snaky people get when we get snow. Do people with disabilities, do you guys have a set priority list on how you go around to remove the snow for, say, their ramps and things like that? Is there a set priority like how we do our streets and our sidewalks?
As far as priorities, no, it goes by, we have 24 hours to clear all the properties, so we go by inner community, which is usually Sydney, out. So we have staff throughout the entire municipality plus throughout the island, so it would be their closest locations until they get to the farthest location throughout the day.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, unless we get like a call,
Do-
like, because sometimes we'll get a call from like care workers that are trying to access
Well,
buildings.
that's what I'm alluding to, yes. Just
Yeah.
in my particular district, I have a couple with disabilities that are in wheelchairs, and just with the past couple of storms, their VON workers haven't been able to get in at specific times. Do you have, when this is over, or if you could do it?
I have
could
a card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would appreciate that.
No
So
problem.
what
Thank
I
you.
was going to suggest, these are important questions for sure, but perhaps we could set up a direct line of communication from counselors to community housing in case they do have inquiries like that.
Thank you.
Councillor Lorne Green?
Madam Mayor, thank you. If it would be in order, I'd like to move a motion that we indefinitely look for 3 representatives for CBRM. Sean, it's a pleasure to meet you finally. I've spoke to you several times, had several emails. It's a pleasure to meet you.
It's good to see you face to face as well, Lauren. Thanks.
Like the hairdo as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to move a motion that we put that call out for 3 representatives from CBRM to be on the housing board, and I would so move that as a motion, Madam Mayor.
Second.
Oh, seconded by Steve, I'm short.
Second.
There we go. It's really difficult. My apologies to the viewing audience. We are wearing masks and it's a large room. Seconded by Councillor Perouche. Great. And I do have a motion here, if it helps, that staff be directed to call for an expression of interest for 3 CBRM citizens to serve on the Cape Breton Island Housing Authority Board for a 3-year term and report back to the nominating committee for consideration and referral to council, noting that council's recommendation will be forwarded to the Nova Scotia Department of Infrastructure and Housing for formal appointment.
You were prepared. I so move, Madam Mayor.
We have a pretty tremendous clerk. That was not me. Any further discussion on this motion? Councillor Gillespie.
Thank you, Mayor McDougall, and thank you very much for coming in. My question would be, I guess, to staff. I've been on the nominating committee for almost 3.5 years, 2.5 years, or almost 3 years in the previous term, and now this year, and I haven't seen this before. Is this something new, or is this something that we've done before and then stopped doing?
Madam Clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, Councillor Gillespie, prior to 2010, CBRM did undergo the call for citizens for the Housing Authority Board. Back in September 2010, the General Committee of Council at the time had made a motion, and they sent correspondence back to the province asking that they include these appointments in their call for other boards and commissions, similar to the profile attached in the agenda, the ABCs that the agencies, boards, and commissions. And it was back to council on a few occasions, and they didn't, they maintained the status quo. They didn't pass a motion to call for citizens.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Question.
Question has been called. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you kindly.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
It is absolutely timely. We are always talking about affordable housing and housing in general, so I'm glad to see this move forward from council. So next on our agenda, we have another presentation. This is item 4.3 on our agendas, and we have a representative here from the Verschuren Centre, Dr. Beth Mason, who is the president and CEO of the Verschuren Centre. Dr. Mason, you're more than welcome to come on up and enlighten us.
Disrobe. Thank you very much, Mayor McDougall and Council, for this opportunity to share with you some of what I think is some good news stories on some of the really cool projects underway at the Verschuren Centre. I don't know if you guys can see the presentation that went out. Brilliant. So you have hard copies. There's a few trees gone. Hey. Good news is I don't need my glasses to see this version. So I probably should introduce the Verschuren Centre, and it's on me probably that we're probably one of the best kept secrets in Cape Breton. It really is a gem of activity and has been recognized, I think, provincially and nationally over the last few years for some of the activities that are going on. And we probably don't do this often enough to get the word out to the public as to the kinds of things that we're doing in our community, in Nova Scotia, and nationally to build business. So we are an independent, not-for-profit research and deployment center. Sounds like a mouthful, and it is. I have a terrible time trying to do the 3-minute elevator pitch on what we do. So here's a list of our, what I call platforms. Our purpose in life is we are a business helping businesses to commercialize. And as such, we draw resources to those businesses. We work with our partners who largely are Halifax-based, but have a Cape Breton presence, who are in business attraction. And our goal is to be able to provide them these platforms whereby they can bring their business, grow their business, and we can connect them with our existing primary industry on the one side and manufacturing on the other, so that we bring sustainability to both parties and to what we do here. So in a nutshell, our focus is in these few areas: thermal energy, renewable energy. So we're very much interested in electrification of our thermal load, which is rather heavy in Cape Breton. And of course, a piece of that is the closure of the coal plants and replacement with, you know, high-tech, high-paying jobs in the renewable field. Carbon transformation is another piece of that, whereby we're looking at technologies that can bring sustainability to aspects of manufacturing where they're petrochemical-based. We have a really exciting new build, our industrial bio cluster, which is now being seen nationally as one of the very few resources across Canada where companies in the new synthetic biology field can come and scale their activities. I talk about these things, and a lot of them are way beyond my capacity. That's why we hire really brainy people to do it. So, and then last but not least is our activities in community that revolve around lakes and land-based aquaculture, with a focus on food security. And I think one of the things that's overarching about the VC is our focus on marrying renewable energy with low carbon footprint affordable food. And I think that you know, it's so pertinent to Cape Breton, where we have both food and energy and security, that we move the bar on those things by bringing those two together. So let's hope this works. I'm just going to give you a tiny smattering of some of the projects we've got on the go, because there's so much happening. It would take us a long time, and as I said, I talk too much, and I'm not very good at condensing it. So our energy focus in terms of getting these activities into our communities has been around creation of community solar. Some people might be aware of our project at what I call Radar Hill, which is the New Dawn Centre where the radar base is. And the goal there is to basically do retrofit of old housing, which is, again, pertinent for a lot of the homes in Cape Breton, where we improve energy efficiency, working with partners like Efficiency One, Nova Scotia Power programs, and then having reduced the thermal demand load and the overall energy load to add a community solar garden, whereby in some instances that would then, over a period of a very short number of years, reduce those participants' energy bill close to zero. So you can see where focusing on something that we can do locally with our local contractors can actually really significantly impact the energy and security level of people in our neighborhood. And this is not novel to us. It's happening in Alberta, you know, an oil-rich country or province. It's happening across the globe. And it's affordable. That's the crazy thing. We can do this, as I said, with a reasonable payback period and then at the same time reduced energy bills. So that's been one of the focuses. We also work at the provincial and federal level with governments to hit the Paris climate commitments on greening government operations. So that's something we do across Atlantic Canada. You may or may not be aware of the agreements between the federal and provincial governments on the upcoming Green Choice program, which will mean a lot more installation of renewable. And with Premier Rankin's announcement on 80% renewable, there's going to be a lot more installation of renewables. And, you know, much to most people's opinion or understanding, wind is now the cheapest source of energy. And so with the upcoming regulatory changes and the new targets by governments, we're going to see our renewable energy portfolio in this province improve rapidly, which is a good thing for ratepayers. And it means more high-tech jobs in our communities. The other thing we focus on, as well as renewable, is our thermal load. And being a northern community, all of Canada is pretty much northern. We have a high thermal load, but we also are a very, very windy climate, in case you hadn't noticed. And the beauty of that, apart from trying to cycle into the wind, which is not that great, is that the wind portfolio or the profile of wind generation absolutely matches our thermal requirements. So our peak of thermal usage, heating in other words, mirrors when the maximum wind production is. And so on the electrical side, there's big advances on electrical storage. And you're going to see, it's in the IRB that there is going to be increased electrical storage. Our focus is thermal storage because that's the other half of our energy use. And in a northern climate, if we can store some of those curtailed wind, when we get really high winds, we can distribute that thermally. The other piece is we work with a lot of partners across Canada and internationally to bring technologies to bear here that are maturing technologies so that we can be at the forefront of the energy transition. We're working on a kind of scoping project with a group from Scotland, which is looking at a thermal energy loop for a community in New Waterford. We also, I don't know if we've got the picture on there. We've done, as I said, solar installs on rooftop and community for our industry partners. That's a nice opportunity. And we also proposed another community solar array right here in our neighborhood for not-for-profit institutions. And so we can transform at every level. And if governments are going to hit their net zero targets, it's comprised of your general public, your institutional demand, your industrial demand, and our levels of government demand. And we've got to hit all of those. And so the programs that we focus on are working with all of those partners to change that profile as quickly as we can. And it needs a combination of things. So I won't harp on energy because I think that's an obvious one, and I think that huge progress is going to be made in the next little while. I just want to touch quickly on developments that happened in the last few years and absolutely accelerated through this last year through COVID. So as much as COVID has been damaging to a lot of companies, I don't think we could have been busier. So we have installed infrastructure to the tune of about $1.5 million right in the middle of COVID to build a nationally recognized industrial bio center. The popularity of this is such that I think that we'll be building a 10x version within the next year to get these companies to commercial scale. So this is one of those things where it's like, we've got lots of nice, shiny stainless steel toys, but to most people, it's just like, well, what does that actually mean, right? So industrial bio is the tool that all the brainiacs that are coming out of universities today have that we didn't have when I went through school. Biology was pretty simple, although I found it frustrating at that point because nothing was ever really sure. Synthetic biology basically takes engineered microbes and says, okay, here's a product that is let's say we want to replace a chemical product that's used for yield enhancement in crops. I take a bug, I engineer the bug, and I say, okay, let's ferment that, and now it makes that product. So you can see from this that you can make almost anything that is produced petrochemically, whether that's flavorings, whether that's functional ingredients, whether that's feeds, single-cell protein feeds for aquaculture, all in that lovely big stainless steel vessel. And the bigger you make it, the more of that market you can hit. The market size is massive, and we sit on the doorstep of Europe, where there is far more advanced demand for synthetic biology products than we have even internally. But across Canada, there's very few places that companies can do this. So we have universities with entrepreneurs exiting with their IP and nowhere to land to grow their business. And what we've done is we've said, okay, well, we'll spend $1.5 million, $2 million. We'll put that infrastructure in right here, and now you can come and use that. So our business model is very different from an academic institution or, you know, a provincially funded research center. We are not funded in any underlying manner. All of our funding is from matched funds that we apply with industry partners and from service agreements with those clients. So we depend on bringing clients in. And for companies that exist today to access this technology, someone needs to grow it. So our feeling was, like, we'll put the infrastructure in, we'll grow them here, and now our existing manufacturing base can use that. And so, as I said, the reason this has been such a success is that business model. You come in with your really bright idea, you keep your idea, we help you grow it, and now you can grow to commercial scale. So there's been at least 20 companies this last year from across Canada, from the US, that have come into the Verschuren Centre to utilize those facilities to be able to grow. The next step is we've grown them to this scale, we now need to grow them to the next scale. So what we need to do is to keep that here in Cape Breton and figure out how we're going to do that so that their commercial plant occurs here. So we partner with organizations and funding agencies across Canada and the US. And we do that so that we can surround them with funding, which helps them pay for us, and surround them with business advice, with business development, with venture capital. So guess what? The companies come in, they start to grow, their next approach is their next seed round, investments following them. So I have a little, this is just the first kind of kick at the cat here. If we have 10, 15 companies and 4 or 5 of those scale up here, each one of these companies is hiring 3 to 6 people already the minute they walk in the door. In fact, some of them haven't even landed and they've already hired 3 people. And those are postdocs, those are people, you know, with high skill levels, high levels of education, and they're moving here to Cape Breton. And when they move here, they don't say, hey, what does it look like there? You know, do you have that really cool Cabot Trail? Like, I want to live. They say, you've got the technology, I can scale and commercialize and keep my IP, I'm coming. That's what they do. So if we get that and we get these guys to scale, then in no time at all, we have, in 5 years, 20 to 30 scale-ups, 200 to 300 new high-paying jobs, and investment right now, each one is raising $1 to $2 million. So you're looking at $250 to $300 million of investment coming here. So this is what we provide for those companies, all those levels of support that I've just mentioned, capital efficiency being a big one, and the connection to primary feedstock from Nova Scotia and manufacturing partners. Now, this is what we feel our clients need when they get here, which is where I think that, you know, we can talk about what, as a council in CBRM, could we be doing to make sure that more companies come, and the ones that come stay and build here. Capital investment is coming with them. They need trained HQP. We're attracting HQP from across Canada. We need retention. That means we need an attractive business environment. What's an attractive business environment? That means infrastructure, access to primary resources, a tax base that's attractive to build here instead of somewhere else in Canada or in the US or in Europe, which is where the only other place they can go to do what they're doing here. And so we need to be thinking about collectively, what can we do to encourage this build? Because it's happening, and it's happening exponentially. And that's the amazing thing. And so I would ask everybody today just to give some thought to what could we do together to create that attractive environment to keep these companies growing here. There'll be, you know, a center of excellence scaling in that and on our thermal storage side that's bringing more companies in. And so, as I said, I think that there are some things we do together to attract them, and hopefully we can continue that discussion within these areas going forward. Thank you.
So we don't often get a ton of just great news on, hey, look, we're doing amazing things, let's partner. Any questions for Dr. Mason? Councillor Cyril McDonald.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Dr. Mason, for your presentation. More of a comment than a question. You may remember me when I recruited for the university, and that was 5-6 years ago now. And one of my selling features was the Verschuren Centre. And it wasn't because I knew a lot about it, but I knew that the students that were attracted to that realm of expertise were very attracted to it. When I would take students on tours and they could see the infrastructure, you know, yourself or one of your colleagues would come out and talk to those prospective students, and it was a selling feature for the university. And I, you know, I'm amazed at the work that you're still doing and continuing to do, and you know, so I commend you for the work that you're doing and your colleagues are doing. Thank you for everything you do for our island and for our economy, and continue to do the good work, and I hope that we can continue to support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Steve Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Beth, for your presentation. I'd just like to encourage Council, as a former Board of Governor of CBU, if you haven't taken the time to go and tour the site firsthand with Beth, take the time to do it. There's a lot of exciting things going on at CBU and Verschuren Centre, and I would certainly encourage you to take advantage of that. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Dr. Mason, perhaps we can work together then to set up a tour of that nature. We could probably, because of COVID, do small groups if that would be okay with you.
For sure. Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Dr. Gordon McDonald, Councillor Gordon McDonald.
Thanks, Mayor. I've got a lot of things. Doctor hasn't been one of them. But thanks, Dr. Mason, for coming and making this presentation. It's very interesting and very impressive, actually, to see what the capabilities are out there at the Verschuren Centre. What really struck me was the synthetic biology part, and the kind of things that you were able to produce in such an environment in that capacity. And I certainly wasn't aware that anything of the sorts was something that was able to be produced here in Cape Breton, certainly not in CBRM. And I'm just kind of wowed about the potential and what you described as being able to retain the markets that you are setting up out there, and those kind of productions. And I'm very interested to see how those kind of capacities could be retained here in Cape Breton, because I can just imagine with the amount of money that's being put into the centre and the amount of education experience and those kind of people coming, I can just imagine the kind of jobs that would spin off from these kind of ideologies. And And to say I'm impressed is an understatement, and I'm very interested in see how we as a municipality could look at how you as a business venture could retain those kind of jobs to put that back into Cape Breton and have people from Cape Breton doing that kind of work. I much appreciate your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. We're, you know, the nice thing is we're bringing kids back that are highly trained. Cape Breton kids are coming home to work there, you know, so I think it'll just increase, and I do think there are things that we can do together so that, you know, when we do the next 10X, we don't necessarily do it, you know, in Halifax. We do it right here in Cape Breton. There is no reason we can't do this here. And that's the approach we've taken. You know, if this is the future, if this is where the globe is going, if this is where things in Europe are, then we need to do it here. In actual fact, we have the advantage to do it here because we have the primary resources that they're the feedstock for a lot of those products. So it's a logistical and a desire and an incentive, those kinds of things to stay here. That's what we need.
Yeah, and I fully agree. It's remarkable, and just the fact that we have people that are coming back to Cape Breton for this. Whatever we can do to expand these kind of ventures, I think this is the kind of talk that we should be talking. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Councillor Gillespie.
Thank you, Dr. Mason, and thank you very much for your presentation. And not to repeat what Gordon MacDonald said, but yeah, you know, incredible opportunity for us. And you mentioned a little bit about it, and maybe you just answered the question, but when it comes to the number of people that are required for these businesses and this type of industry, when it comes to the education level, you had indicated, you know, doctorates and stuff like that. How many people do fit that criteria that are out there now as Cape Bretoners and that will be coming back? Or how many people have you spoken to that have said they would like to come back?
Everywhere I go, I don't know what happened in Cape Breton, but you produced an awful lot of really smart people that left here. And it's just that I didn't make any rude jokes on that one, but everywhere I go, and it's not just PhDs, it's engineers. Like recently we brought a whole bunch of engineers home. And so everywhere I go to Toronto, every time I go to Toronto, I meet someone who says, hey, I'm from Cape Breton, you know, and they're a manager, they're an engineer, they're a synthetic biologist. And this is why I say, you know, there wasn't synthetic biology when I went to school, to age myself. All of these guys have this skill set now. All of our kids have them, and a lot of our kids are engineers. We need process engineers, we need mechanical engineers. And the big thing we did was invest in capital infrastructure. These businesses are capital intense, so as much as they need those skill sets, they need a certain number of those, but they need the capital investment in infrastructure to do it. It's not like IT where I just need a space to put my laptop, right? It actually requires, you know, like I said, most of these guys, their pre-seed Series A round is $2 million and above. And that's just their first step to get their client engagement. So in terms of the skill sets, we've got them. Yeah, Capers are all across Canada with those skills.
Have you, as Verschuren Centre, had, obviously being out at CBU, you also have a collaboration with CBU when it comes to what is being taught and what degrees are available there. Has that been a topic of conversation, and the ability to train people here locally instead of sending them away to a much larger city and then having to pull them back?
I think there's some synergy, obviously. You know, we take people from things like the process engineering programs, so we do work with CBU on engineering. You know, I think that one of the things to realize about this is, although I say, you know, all these kids have synthetic biology, it would take us a long time to start building a synthetic biology program here. So my answer to that is, well, let's not, because U of T is brilliant at that, UBC is brilliant at that. Let's do what we're good at. What we're good at is producing those engineers to actually show those geeky scientists how to build it, right? And so that's probably our best connection that we can do, and we do really well here, is engineering. Synthetic biology, not as much. Other skill sets, chemistry, strong chemistry, interaction, biochemistry. We take students, oftentimes when they do their bachelor's honors program, one of the challenges is we don't have a master's on the science side at CBU. So a lot of my master's students come from Dal, and I'm adjunct at a bunch of other universities where we draw those master's students from. So there are absolutely opportunities for CBU and NSCC, actually, because we've had those conversations with NSCC as well, to build programs around what we do.
It's funny, I was just about to mention that to you, because NSCC is just opening up a much larger campus here now and is looking for that one type of course, that one type of training that could make Nova Scotia Community College Marconi campus stand out from the other campuses.
I think on our energy programs in particular, so all of the retrofit, energy balance, thermal conversion, and on the process engineering, those are absolutely areas that the college can ramp up to support.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Deputy Mayor Erlene McMullen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Dr. Mason, I have 4 solar panels and 9 batteries and thought I was brilliant. I like biochemistry and synthetic biology is just much larger than my skill set. But you got papers to push. I am your lady. I'm hoping I'm not being too advantageous here with council, but I'm still trying to wrap my head around the potential investment over a 5-year. I want to know so much more, and we're going into charter, and I think when we're looking for ideas, and we had strategic planning, and we talked about, be imaginative and try and think outside the box, and then you just show up here on Tuesday, and I'm stuttering because I didn't know about this, especially to this extent, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping, and I'm sure I don't even have to say it out loud, but when it comes to the charter, that our discussions will go on further, so that as we move forward, trying to get a little more power on our own, that we can see what your future needs may be and how we could work together. So I really hope that's going to be a priority amongst my colleagues outside of myself. And I just want to thank you for this. And I have a lot of reading to do, apparently. So again,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're more than welcome. And I think there are definitely things that we can do together.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, cool.
Thank you again, Dr. Mason. And full disclosure, Dr. Mason was meant to come to our strategic planning session. So for the viewing audience, this is an example of the presentations that we received throughout strategic planning, and really, way to inspire our council to start getting excited, way to educate us on what is actually happening here on the island and get our minds ready for how we move forward in a strategic direction. So we will take you up on those tours and that continued education, and also how we can help continue getting that investment here on the island. So lots and lots of gratitude, Dr. Mason.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you.
So I presume we are going to enter into a phase of synthetic biology training next. But before that, we will move to item 5 on our agenda, final approval. So this is public hearing, request for street closure, the old alignment of Kings Road, portion of PID 157-05585, old alignment of Esplanade, portion of PID 157-05718. I will ask Sheila Kalanko, who is our property manager, please, to speak to the issue.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. As presented to Council on February 9th, Council received a request on behalf of the NSCC seeking a formal street closure for unused sections of the Kings Road and the Esplanade. You'll see the areas outlined on page 26 and 27 of your agenda. At that time, Council passed a motion directing staff to initiate the street closing process. We were advised by the staff of the Engineering and Public Works Department that they have no issue with supporting the applicant's request. Pursuant to the Municipal Government Act, a public hearing is required, at which time those in favor and those opposed to the closing of the unused sections, as well as the esplanade, can be heard. Unfortunately, they can't be public. However, notice was advertised in the Post on the 6th of March, as well as on our social media networks and platforms. I can say that the legal department received one email. I contacted her personally. She was more, I guess, confused on where the street closing was, and I think if you've seen some Facebook messages, there was some confusion, and maybe that's something we can work forward to, making things a little more easier for people to understand. I can clearly say that the sections we're seeking to get closed is unused sections as a result of the old alignment of the Kings Road, as well as the esplanade many, many years ago was 100 feet wide, whereas presently today it runs between 66 and 70 feet. So there's not going to be a disruption in traffic or anything is going to impede the traffic from going from the Sydney River to the downtown area. So I'm here tonight, and it's staff's recommendation to pass a motion, asking council to pass a motion to officially close those sections of the unused portions as identified on my maps in attachment A and B, and to deem it surplus for sale to the province for the development of the NSCC campus.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Eldon McDonald, seconded by Councillor Lauren Green. Any discussion on the motion?
No.
Oh, gosh,
Can't hear
I'm
me with this
sorry.
thing on again.
My apologies. We're going to have to get signs or something until masks. Yeah, my apologies. Moved by Councillor Steve Parsons, or seconded by Councillor Steve Parsons. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Question?
Question has been called. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary, nay. Motion is carried. Thank you so kindly, Sheila.
Thank you.
Okay, we are now moving to the final item on the agenda this evening. That is the update on strategic planning sessions. This is just for information purposes only. I will offer a little summary to everybody here. Most people were actually there, but also for everybody who is viewing and joining us this evening. So just to bring to light the intention of our planning strategic planning sessions. So really, at the end of the day, the goal for these sessions was to bring council and staff members together and really get an idea where all of our respective goals for council stood. This is a practice that, many organizations, businesses, nonprofits, and governments use as a way to get back to the grassroots of what they want to do, what they want to achieve. I reiterate, this is the first step in a process of strategic planning. We really haven't had an opportunity as a council to spend that time together, to form relationships, get to know one another, understand where staff are coming from and what they actually do in terms of their respective roles. And this session really offered us that opportunity to get to know one another. And I know that sounds corny, but when you're spending this much time with people and you're making decisions that are so important and have such a far reach on your communities, you want to know your colleagues around the table and understand where they're coming from. So that team building wasn't necessarily the goal, but it was a really, really valuable bonus that came along with all of us spending a few days together. There have been many inquiries as to why we chose to go off-site. Well, for anybody who has a familiarity with strategic planning, it's really, really important to take yourself out of your normal day-to-day grind. Find yourself in a place that you can really dig in and focus on the task at hand without the distractions. We're sitting here tonight in Center 200 and there's a hockey game going on and we're doing an amazing job of keeping focused and on track, but it's very easy to be distracted because this is where we normally are. This is our work. We can step out the door and head to City Hall. We can take phone calls, what have you. When you remove yourself from your normal day-to-day, you're more apt to dig in deeper. There was a cost associated, as there is a cost for us to use places like this. People think that, oh, we own Centre 200, it doesn't cost us anything to use it. Well, it certainly does, because there's an added staff time to it. There's technology that's involved. There's, so many different things that come into play. We also use many other places, and I give the example of the Holiday Inn for our orientation sessions as well. So we try to spread around what we do and where we meet to support our community. So it did cost just over $4,200 for 28 people to participate in these sessions. Staff and council were offered to stay the first night because sessions went probably around from about 9 o'clock in the morning till 9:30 at night, and started again at 8:30 the next morning. So there was one night where people were offered to stay, and that some did take that opportunity, including myself. So we invited stakeholders to come and present to us on the first day. The intent of that was really to get our minds around what's happening in the community. As I mentioned, Dr. Beth Mason, she was originally on the list, but we just had so many presentations and wanted to give them some time. I suggested that she, and I know that Wesley Colford will be coming to our next meeting, continue helping us with this education. There was no discussion on decisions being made or negotiations or contracts happening. It was a simple act of education and understanding what's happening in our community, and very strategic in the sense that it had nothing to do with municipal jurisdiction. The next 2 days focused strictly on what we are responsible for. What is our mandates? What are our priorities going forward? And where do we want to focus our strategic direction over the next 4 years and beyond? So just for clarity, there was no decision-making, no contracts were signed, no handshakes had. We did have wonderful facilitators helping us get through that conversation on who we are as a municipality. It should be noted that there has not been a strategic plan in the CBRM since 1997. We don't even have a vision statement or mission statement. And very funny, because the other day we were in a meeting, hey Marie, where an organization that we're helping, the Hawks Dreamfield, needed our vision statement for one of their applications, and we said, sorry, we don't have one. So this is all very important work. I do need to address some of the response that came from us meeting. We all came out of these sessions, and I shouldn't speak on it on behalf of everybody, I know, but for the most part, the internal response to these strategic planning sessions was incredibly positive. I know myself personally, leaving there on Friday, I felt a connection to my colleagues here, my council colleagues and the staff members that I hadn't been able to experience on my first 4 years of council. That was remarkable. I felt like I understood what we wanted to do a little bit better and was eager for this process to continue on, because we know that strategic planning isn't a 2-day session. This is something we have to continuously work at. Some of the response around us violating the MGA, I feel like that is really important to address here. Not only have we previously talked about this in 2019 when Minister Chuck Porter came to educate our former council on when to have in-camera sessions, what constitutes a meeting, and the things that you should be doing, in which he identified strategic planning as one of them. Like our former Minister of Municipal Affairs, our new Minister of Municipal Affairs, Brendan McGuire, who got to join in virtually, commended us on undertaking such a task as strategic planning, because it is so important at this grassroots level of government. Funny enough, just a couple of weeks before we engaged in our own session, a good friend and colleague of mine in the municipality county of Kings, she was sharing her experiences with her her council and the strategic planning they had just concluded. So I know we're in good company, and we're doing things in a very progressive way, and we want to be a progressive municipality. So I just want to put it out there that we would not have engaged in something if it was in fact in violation of the Municipal Government Act. And to that end, it doesn't matter if there's any negative spin on it. I know, and I am so proud of our council for the work that you all put into this, and our staff members as well. I'm really excited for this to come back to council and for us to figure out, to see firsthand how all of that information and that work came together and where our strategic priorities and areas are going to be going forward. And please let me note too, this is going to be a public-facing document. This will be in the hands of every single resident of the municipality to help us work through this, to figure out those actionable items and deliverables, and to also hold us to account. So again, I want to commend and thank staff and council for all of their efforts, and just say how excited I am for this moving forward. Again, the municipality hasn't had this type of direction for a great number of years, and what a great way to start off this year, post-COVID. If anybody else has any comments on that, you're more than welcome. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a comment to thank you for addressing this in the public forum. As you're well aware, anyone on social media or vice versa, all of council and staff took a little bit of a little go over the last couple of days, some more than others. But I just want to thank you for the opportunity, thank staff for everything that's been contributed, and also just add, with the no decisions, you just mentioned briefly that you can't wait for it to come back. For that clarity, so people understand that there was literally no decision made, is these facilitators took all of our discussion, pointed us in ways to talk and, took their own notes, and they are collaborating all of what we talked about. So as a council and staff who actually attended these sessions, we don't even know what the outcome is. So when the public sees it, we will see it, and that's very, very exciting. So again, I want to thank you for the opportunity. I myself, this is my second term in council. I have not had the opportunity to engage in something like that, and I made the statement at the session that as a councillor, it feels really good to actually have your hand in what the future of the municipality is going to be, as opposed to being reactive to what is brought forward to you. And I really can't thank you enough, and I hope the residents do understand how incredibly important this is and what a wonderful step forward. So thank you.
Councillor Lauren Green?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I think the big thing for the public was, the opinion was there was a lot of money spent out there. I would like you to repeat the numbers, because I just did the numbers here, and I'm not an accountant, but it actually cost the taxpayer $4.16 an hour for us to meet there. So that's quite a deal for the taxpayer. When you break it down, we were there for long hours, and I think the public needs to understand that. It wasn't about anything frivolous out there. We were out there doing work on your behalf as your residents, and I don't take any fault in what we've done. I think we are doing the right thing for the municipality. I think we're doing the right thing for our residents. And my assurance of that will be when I put my name on the ballot again. If I haven't done the right thing for the people I represent, they will let me know.
Thank you, Councillor. And that number does not include tax, but because we do receive an HST rebate, we get to discount some of that tax number. But yeah, it was a great way to support a local business, and I hope going forward we continue this process and we review it on a yearly basis, and we will cycle along to different locations through the municipality to offer our support to all of our businesses. So seeing no more comments.
Madam Mayor?
Oh, golly gee, sorry about that. Councillor Gordon MacDonald.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I appreciate you explaining some of that as well. And what I'd like to comment on is that, a lot of the backlash that's coming from the public is about, not checking our resources to find out if we were doing something that we shouldn't be doing well. Through some of my conversations, I indicated that before we went out to the meeting, I asked you if we had approval from it. You gave me assurance that the previous Minister of Municipal Affairs, Chuck Porter, gave that clearance. Certainly when we heard some more of the turmoil going on while we were out at the resort doing this work, when the minister, the newly minted minister, come on, I asked you again to make sure that minister assured us that we were okay being there, and the fact that they both indicated in such a way that it wasn't just expected, it was required of this municipality. That gives me a lot of reassurance that and confidence that we did not do anything wrong, and those people that are really pounding on us right now as municipal councilors as to, there's other sources out there saying you violated the Municipal Governments Act. Well, if you want to take that pressure to the ministers that have given us the advice, instead of laying it on us, we're only following a policy that's laid out in the MGA. So, if you want to put all that pressure on somebody, go talk to the ministers of municipal affairs and put the pressure there where it belongs, and let us continue to do this work. On another matter, Madam Mayor, I wouldn't expect anything less from the background that I have. This is the kind of strategic planning that I was expecting to get into at some point, and through this COVID thing that we got going on. And, the amount of money that we put out for this here is a very small portion of the dollars, considering the amount of work that we've done out there as well. And just as an example, Madam Mayor, we went through, and on a paper that was left on our tables just at the last day, just to give some kind of an example, we identified 31 strengths in this municipality. We identified 36 opportunities going forward. We identified 41 aspirations of this municipality that we're talking about, and we're looking at results in around 29 results of what we went through into priorities and those kind of planning. And I am so looking forward into the final report that's coming from the facilitators that put this together, and the amount of work. And I commend every councillor in this room that put the effort and the work in there over those 3 days, and the amount of passion that was put in there. And you're right, Madam Mayor, because we can't sit around the room with the public sitting in our lap and do the work that we need to do, and do it the way we want to do it without being criticized and critiqued on every aspect of it. And in order to get this kind of work together and to put forward, this is the kind of work we need to do, and we need to be doing more of it. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further comments? Councillor Steve Parsons.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Any true professional organization, be it a council or be it a board of directors, in order to set your goals and get somewhere where you want to go, you need to be able to sit down, have those discussions about how we're going to get there. And I, for one, participated. I'm glad I did. It was certainly worthwhile. It sets our goals, where we want to go in 4 years from now and in the future. We saw a presentation tonight from Dr. Mason of areas of opportunities in this municipality that we need to jump on board of. And if we don't get that information, and we live in silos, that information will not come true. And if it doesn't come through for us to be a part of and support, then we have nobody to blame but ourselves. So I enjoyed the 3 days. It was worthwhile. And again, in order to get somewhere, you need a strategic way to get there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cyril McDonald.
Just a quick comment, Madam Mayor. It's when we were working on one of our exercises, and I had some brilliant staff, and I went home and I was thinking about it. There was probably about 75 years experience at my table from a staffing perspective, and I thought, when would I ever have had that opportunity before? And then to ask the question, what is our mission statement, and to be told we don't have one. Wow. I was actually embarrassed to be sitting at the table, and I know there's one that was approved in 1995 when I was still in diapers, but we as a municipality, we need to progress. We need to continue to move forward. Dr. Mason just told us there's millions of dollars in investment and development that's happening on our island, and we're sitting here and most of us didn't know anything about that. So if we're not meeting with these stakeholders and we're not progressing as a municipality, and if we can't come up with a mission statement, we've got big problems. So I commend you for putting that together. I had my reservations going into it, but I'm glad of the outcomes that are coming and the work that was done. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Steve Gillespie.
Thank you, Mayor McDougall. I would like to say that I'm getting a little tired of Councillor Cyril McDonald referring to himself in diapers when I was in my 30s.
Double my age.
I agree with everything everyone said, including Dr. McDonald over there on the end. In the last 4.5 years, I learned more in the 3 days previous than I did, and I sat next to Elder McDonald for the last 4.5 years. So, there's a lot to be learned there. We all realized at this strategic planning that we all have the same goals. And we didn't know that until we got there. When we looked at what we were doing and how we were talking, we all have the same passion and have the same future in the CBRM. And it was nice to have that on a piece of paper. It was nice for us to sit around the table and discuss that individually. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of that, and I thank you for putting it on.
Thank you, Councillor Gillespie. Any further comment? Again, thank you all for your continued dedication to these roles. We have a lot of work to do. Budget is coming up. I just, before we adjourn, want to take a couple of action items from tonight and make sure that we're all in agreement. So we will be setting up tours with the Verschuren Centre. I'll be reaching out to Dr. Mason and finding some COVID-friendly groups to put together and go really get that in-depth look and feel for what's happening at the VC. I will also reach out to our communication staff and share that really, really important information from Caregivers Nova Scotia. What an amazing resource that we have in our community that we need to help spread. Also, we're going to send out an information package to all of council and set up that meeting to have a special meeting of the library and how we move forward on that project. And finally, we do require a meeting where we decide what we want to do in terms of committee and council structure. So we need to set our schedules going forward. I apologize. We can do that by Zoom, perhaps. You know, coming out of the sessions that we previously had, I feel like we are definitely able to do this on our own as a council. We will determine how we move forward with our council schedule and structure. I can provide a few different models and we can chat it out and have a meeting through Zoom if that is agreeable with the rest of council. Agreed. Great. Seeing no further items on the agenda, I will adjourn.